So should you buy a iPhone 11 Pro or 11 Pro Max in 2020? Well, yeah, I mean, probably if you're an iPhone fan, if you have the money for it, if you get a really good deal on it, it's a great phone. It'll last you a long time. But there's like at least one thing that drives me insane about this phone so much that I can't wait to go back to Android. Oh yes, I'm going back to Android. I kind of said that when I first got this, but some of you don't pay attention to all of my videos, so I guess I'll have to explain that too. But I'll talk about some of the good things and the one really bad thing about this phone right after this.
This is, you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back. And for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. If that sounds like fun to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Anything I talk about will be in the description below. But for now, let's just get into the video. Before I go too deep into the iPhone itself, I want to real quick address something. Some people are going to be surprised, I guess, that I am going to go back to Android as soon as an appropriate Android phone comes out, but that's because you haven't been paying attention. You see, lately I've been getting a bunch of comments about being an Apple fanboy, which is kind of hilarious since I've owned every single Galaxy Note since the Galaxy Note 2. As a matter of fact, I've owned more Galaxy phones than most of the people leaving comments. But they wouldn't know that because their feelings are tied up in their brand. I've talked about this a billion times before. If you haven't seen my brand loyalty videos, you need to get educated. So just to be clear, I pledge allegiance, just like my friend Flossie, to the hotness. Whether it be an iPhone, a Samsung phone, an LG phone, whatever it is, as long as it's the hotness, I'm all about that life. I don't care about the brand, and you shouldn't either. But for some reason, and I don't know why, Samsung fans get all twisted in their feelings when someone says anything even remotely critical of one of their devices. Let me be very clear. I've been critical of Apple far more than I've been critical of Samsung, and for far longer. Just because you haven't looked through my history to know that doesn't mean you need to leave a comment about how I'm paid by Apple. Which, by the way, Apple, if you want to pay me, feel free. But on to the iPhone 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max. Now, when these phones came out, I said, and still to this day contend, they were way too expensive. And then Samsung came along and said, hold my beer. We're getting to a very dangerous point in smartphone pricing, which I'll talk about another time a little bit later. But let's talk a little bit about the iPhone in 2020 and even into 2021. This thing is a beast, and let me tell you something, I'm super happy with the phone overall. I like the fact that the battery life is basically 2 days for me. I routinely charge this phone once every other day. That has not changed since I got the phone. I'm still absolutely amazed by that. Once every other day, I'm able to charge the phone, and I have no, and I mean no, battery anxiety anymore. I think most people are used to having a charger nearby at all times just in case their battery runs low, but I just don't have to do that. Even when I was in Las Vegas in a place that, well, I was using my phone a lot, and the battery drainage in Vegas, if you've ever been, is really a savage. I got through every single day without charging until the very end. Every single day. And AirDrop is a beast. I do my editing on an iPad, as I've done for many years. Heck, I've had iPads before I ever had an iPhone. I've always liked their tablets better than Android tablets. As a matter of fact, even Google doesn't believe in Android tablets anymore. They don't even make them anymore. So being able to take some footage that I can shoot on my iPhone, which I absolutely love, the pictures and the video quality are excellent, and just airdrop them to my iPad is amazing. It's absolutely awesome. And the performance is also awesome. And I've talked about this next bit a little bit before. The apps, some of the apps are just plain better on iOS. Now, when I only owned Samsung phones, I didn't believe it. I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's true. And you can hate on that all you want, but you need to be hating on the app developers, not iPhone owners or whatever. So battery life, camera, and performance are amazing. The other thing that Apple does really, really well are the updates. We'll get updates on time, every time. And I know that all of the phones, even going all the way back to iPhone 6S, are on iOS 13. Not like a small segmented people who are either on a specific carrier or a specific manufacturer. They all have access to the latest and greatest iOS. And I know with this phone, that's going to be no different. iOS 14, 15, I mean, I guess it's going to be for the next 3 to 5 years. This phone will be supported. It's so incredibly powerful that people could be using this phone 5 years later and not feel like they're missing out on anything. And that's one of the main reasons that getting a phone even now, even though it's a 2019 phone, is going to be fine. This phone is incredible, incredibly powerful, incredibly fast, all those things. And yes, it's an iOS device, so you have some of the good with the bad. But the one thing that really tears me up, the thing that really is going to have me racing back to Android, is something that even when I had it in Android, I never really thought that much about. I guess you don't know what you miss until it's gone. And that's multitasking. And while there's some type of weak version of multitasking, if you could even call it that on iOS, it's really terrible. For one major reason. Let me explain the concept and see if you can understand why it's so bad. If you give someone rules to play a game, then it's easier to play that game. If you understand exactly what you need to and don't need to do in order for something to succeed, it's much easier to accept any kind of shortcomings that come along with it, or at the very least say that I'm not interested. Unfortunately, with iPhones and multitasking, there don't appear to be any real rules. Here's the thing. You can actually suspend an app, go into another app, and come back to it and everything's fine. Or you can suspend an app, go into another app, and then come back and it's not fine. And I don't know why. What's the difference? Sometimes I can go into multiple apps and everything's fine. And then sometimes I can't. I can't even go into one app. Like, what's going on? The rules are very unclear. How many apps can I have open before you start refreshing them? The other thing is it doesn't even warn me that, hey, you're gonna lose out on being logged into another app. For example, my banking app, when I go out of there into something else and come back and it's completely logged me out. And with multi-factor authentication, it takes a while to log back in. It's an incredible inconvenience. And this is just something that works on Android. It works and has worked for many operating system updates, and you just kind of get used to it. I don't even use split screen multitasking. I mean, that's good for some people. It just doesn't do anything for me. I just like to shift between my apps sometimes and not be completely logged out and have the whole thing refresh. Without a doubt, this is, to me, one of the worst parts of iOS. And the funny thing is so many Apple users have gotten used to it, they don't even know to complain about it. And even though there's some type of really unclear kind of update coming to iOS 14 regarding multitasking, I don't think it's actually going to fix this problem. It doesn't appear to be the thing that's going to fix this problem. It looks like it's just kind of like an iPad multitasking OS update. I don't care about that. iOS multitasking is trash. So I don't care what phone I'm holding right now. I'm going to take them to task for some BS stuff. And this is some BS stuff. Make multitasking that actually works as multitasking. I want to be able to go out of an app, keep that thing live, go check, I don't know, Twitter or something, and come back to that app without having to refresh the whole darn thing. I don't know, make the last 2 or 3 active apps still active in RAM until you run out of RAM and then tell me about it or something. I know that Apple is all about like making the experience easy for you so you don't have to think about those things. But if you're gonna change the game underneath me, take the carpet from underneath me without me even knowing, that's really upsetting. And Apple's never really gotten this right. Like when they first brought multitasking to iOS, they did this half step. I don't know why they do this sometimes, where they'll say, hey, we finally brought, I don't know, wireless charging or something, and then we're coming with AirPower, and then AirPower never comes. And it's just nice to know that no matter what Android phone I end up on next, and that'll probably be the OnePlus 8, I'm gonna have this feature back, and I'm not gonna have to worry about it. I can multitask through multiple apps open at a time and have no problems with them refreshing. This might seem like a nitpick, but it really isn't. When you are charging as much money as Apple is for these phones, or as much money as Samsung is for theirs, you need to have some type of parity between the two operating systems. This is just ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, this is simple. Stop closing my apps. Now, if you've been on Apple forever and you just don't realize this is a pain, use an Android for a while and realize what you're actually missing here. This is actually a much bigger deal than even I'm making it to be. So can you or should you buy an iPhone 11 Pro or 11 Pro Max in 2020 or 2021? Yeah, I mean, it's a great phone. If you don't need to tinker around with anything, if you don't need to have any kind of special abilities or anything like that, and you want a great phone with a great camera, a great operating system, sure, it's a great phone and you should absolutely get one, especially if you get one on some type of discount. But if you're really trying to go beast mode on this thing and open up multiple apps and kind of swing between different things, this is not the phone for you. Not in any way, shape, or form. It's an incredible piece of hardware with so much upside that just lets me down personally in an area which I need it to perform. This is just me, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way. Let me know in the comments below. If you've ever gone from Android to iPhone or anything like that, what was the one feature that you wish worked more like Android? And when I get back to Android, when I get the OnePlus 8 and probably the Note later in the year, which both of those are probably gonna happen, I'm gonna be excited to be able to have that once again. I may miss some of the things from iOS, I might even have to keep this phone, but regardless, that is one thing that I absolutely miss, and Apple, you need to figure it out. And while I acknowledge that iOS 14 might change this, and certainly might change some other things, as there's a rumor that you'll be able to set default apps, and that's definitely a different way for Apple to think, I'm just not sure that they're gonna do this. I mean, it seems like such a simple thing. They could have done it by now. Why wouldn't they? It just seems simple. And if you're gonna call a phone a Pro, like I told you they shouldn't have called this phone in the first place, then you need to make it some sort of Pro. No Pro is going to half multitask. I need a full multitask. All of it. Apple did such a great job of concentrating on the battery life of this phone. It's time to get that optimization to the next level. Do some more camera stuff, that's cool. Do all that, because people want that. But please, oh baby, please, let's get to work on this operating system. Let's get some true multitasking going. If this video helped you out in any way, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And if it didn't, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'm here every single week, having a blast. Hope to see you again real soon. Peace and love, peace and love. Bet you would close my app already.